Donald Trump there leaving the stage at the Mayflower Hotel a few blocks away from the White House, where he has laid out his vision of American foreign policy under a Trump administration.
Yeah, he certainly talked for about 45 minutes there almost, and we're reviewing a copy of what he had to say, but calling America's foreign policy under the current administration a, quote, disaster. Also seeming to speak off a teleprompter there for prepared remarks. Something that he has not generally done in the past, except for his one speech in front of the AIPAC group. He kind of riffed there on his campaign theme, Make America Great Again. He says we must make America strong again, respected again, and truly wealthy again. The question is, how will it play among voters? How is it being received in the foreign policy realm? Joining us now with a look at that, Gillian Turner, a former White House National Security Council staffer under both Presidents Bush and President Obama, and also Ambassador John Bolton, a former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations and senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, both of them Fox News contributors. Mr. Ambassador, let me start with you. I know you are neutral in this race. You have not endorsed Donald Trump or anybody else. Did anything in that speech win you over?
Well, I thought it was a very strong and impressive speech. I thought that by coming back again and again to the point that what should be the lodestar of American foreign policy is protecting American core national interest, he was right on target. I liked his emphasis on the relationship between a strong American economy and our ability to have a strong presence in the world. I thought his analysis of the many failings of Obama, the Obama administration's foreign policy, was on target, and I thought that his observations about the need to have a strong military to help create the kind of structures of deterrence that avoid conflict were all very strong, too. It's a surprise, frankly, that he didn't give this speech. The campaign didn't have the speech up 6 or 8 months ago. So this is a beginning. It obviously doesn't cover everything, even though it was 45 minutes long, or have a lot of specifics. He now joins, I think, Senator Cruz in this debate, Senator Cruz having made a number of thoughtful speeches on national security before. But I think it was an impressive first statement of his thoughts, not all of which I agree with, but now we'll see the debate going forward.
Gillian, I know that all of Washington, the foreign policy establishment, you might say, has been waiting for this speech. What do you think they heard? How is it being received?
Well, a lot of anticipation surrounding it. The question was, is this going to be Mr. Trump's sort of come to Jesus moment with the establishment? And I believe that it was. This is the best tone and tenor we've heard from him on the national defense, probably for the duration of the campaign so far. I agree with the ambassador. I would have liked to have seen it 6 to 8 months ago. Would have made me feel a lot better about his prospects as commander-in-chief. But I think what he did today was he brought this substance to the heart of the Washington establishment, and I think that's going to go a long way towards engendering some goodwill going forward as he's trying to build up his foreign policy team. He
didn't shy away from criticizing the Obama administration. There was one line in particular early in the speech that I heard. I want to play that for you and then get your reactions.
Our friends are beginning to think they can't depend on us. We've had a president who dislikes our friends and bows to our enemies, something that we've never seen before in the history of our country.
There's been controversy over, images of President Obama, whether he bowed to the King of Saudi Arabia, that kind of thing in the past. But as an overall statement, Mr. Ambassador, how do you take that?
Well, I think he said something that certainly many Republicans have said for 7 years, that our friends can't depend on us anymore and our adversaries don't respect us. I could probably give you the names of 20 House and Senate members who have said the same thing. So I think it's absolutely right. I agree with his assessment that the Obama-Clinton-Kerry foreign policy has been represented a huge setback for the United States all around the world. And it's our declining influence, our declining willingness to protect our own interest that's also undercutting our alliances and the structures of deterrence that we've created, thus fostering more chaos, more threats to the United States. So I thought that part was right down the mainstream of Republican foreign policy thinking.
Ambassador, it's Heather Nauert here. I want to ask you, of all the things that you heard Donald Trump say that he wanted to do, some of it seemed to lack some specificity, which has been a pretty common complaint about some of his policies before. But what do you think would be feasible, the first thing that he could potentially get done as President of the United States?
Well, one thing he mentioned, and it was just a mention, but it's certainly dear to my heart, is the restarting of our national missile defense capability. You know, under the George W. Bush administration, we got out of the 1972 anti-ballistic missile treaty so that we could begin a national missile defense to protect us against launches by rogue states like Iran and North Korea and Iraq, protect our innocent civilians from nuclear attack. The Obama administration, which has never believed in national missile defense, the president himself, Joe Biden, the vice president, John Kerry, Hillary Clinton, have gutted that program, leaving innocent American civilians vulnerable to blackmail by the likes of North Korea and Iran. So I think resuming in a major way national missile defense would be a great way to start.
And Gillian, when you talk with a lot of our allies over in Europe, I think that would be music to their ears to hear that taking place.
Absolutely. I think the idea that he's going to start sort of re-engaging with certain parts of the world where he feels this administration has been sort of lacking is one of the most important things he brought to bear in this speech today, because what he really did was shore up for some people who have doubted his sort of perspective on these issues, you know, calling into question things like nuclear alliances, calling into consideration things like our long-standing traditional alliances in Western Europe, military bases there. This will be very reassuring, I think, to not only voters but to the foreign policy making community here in Washington.
Ambassador, as some folks, including Ted Cruz, have doubted his stance on the Iran nuke deal, do you think that he has sort of calmed some of their concerns with how he addressed that today? Well,
I didn't have a text of the speech in front of me. I was just listening, so I may have heard this wrong, but it sounded to me like he did not say he would accept the deal and try and improve it. What I heard him say several times was Iran will not get nuclear weapons. Now, my view has been from the outset that signing this deal was a strategic mistake. I don't think it can be fixed or renegotiated. I think it should be repudiated. That's something Senator Cruz has said is his position. But the key is to say they will never get nuclear weapons, because the deal now puts them on a highway to nuclear weapons. I thought it was a strong statement.
Gillian, there was a statement in there that caught my ear. He said it's time to reinvigorate Western values and spread them around the world. That contrasts with some, I guess, in the Obama administration who maybe practice a sort of an I'm okay, you're okay foreign policy. How is that going to play in the international community, saying that it's time to reinvigorate Western values?
I think that it's something that Americans need to hear. So regardless of what the rest of the world thinks when they hear this, it's something that's going to be very welcome here at home, not just to voters, but again, to the policy establishment here. One of the biggest criticisms he levied against the Obama administration in this speech, and has done throughout the campaign, is their refusal to what he calls acknowledge the enemy. So to name radical Islamic terrorism as the #1 threat posed to the United States today. He reiterated that today, and I think that goes hand in glove with his sentiment about reasserting Western values, what it means to be American, what it means to be all these things in the international community.
All right. Gillian, thank you. Gillian Turner and Ambassador John Bolton, thanks so much for sticking around, listening into that speech, and giving us your expertise as well.